Please call the roll.
Mrs. Elba,
Here.
Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Miss Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Freeman.
Here. If we can, when we have been actual shootings in public facilities and boards of educational facilities, I'd like to just take a moment of silence for our board and all the actual students have died during the actual acts of violence at our school. So if you can, just for a moment of silence, I just want everybody to bow their head and think of those who lost their child or lost a scholar. Thank you. Next on our board agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all may be seated. Next on our board agenda is the actual approval of the Agenda 1.4. Board members, have you had a chance to review tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Is there any changes or any corrections that you see that we can make before this meeting gets started? Superintendent Jolly, have you reviewed this agenda for tonight?
Yes, sir.
Is there any changes, any corrections that you see that we need to make aware?
No, sir.
I do like to, well, we'll get to it when we come to the minutes. Treasurer Dr. Rock, have you reviewed this agenda for tonight?
Yes, but I would propose taking off section 1.5, the approval of minutes. I want to correct something on that in the process. In other words, when the board agenda comes out in board docs, the final minutes will be an attachment, so you could print them and see them right then and there. You could see the final copies. I think that'll be a good procedure for us to improve upon.
So you're making an adjustment for that whole section, or you just
Yeah, I
want to
would
vote?
delay it to next board meeting. And of course, we would add whatever minutes would be prepared between then, if it's up to the board's discretion.
Board, the Treasurer, Dr. Rock, would like to pull the 1.5 approval of minutes sections December 7th, 2017, December 18th, 2017, January 8th, 2018, and January 22nd, 2018. Is there any discussion if we pull those items and bring them back in March?
So I'm fine with it, but I think the only two dates that were in question, at least that I'm aware of, was the two for January.
Me too.
So I'm thinking we could, Dr. Rock, go ahead and approve, unless you're more comfortable with waiting. I leave that entirely up to you.
Either or.
But I looked at the ones for December, and they
I
looked
did
good to
too.
me.
Or do we just want to vote on the two that we had a chance to review, the actual December 7th, which was a regular meeting, and December 18th, 2017, which was a special meeting? Everybody okay just voting on those two? Michelle? Barbara?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes, I'm fine.
Mimi? Okay, so
That'll
Doc,
be good. That'll be good, though, because then the new procedure will be for the new year. Sorry to interrupt.
no problem. So have you reviewed this agenda for tonight, Treasurer?
Yes.
And have you made sure that we have the capability of paying for all these items on this agenda for tonight?
Yes.
Board, I do need a motion to approve 1.4, approval of agenda for February 26, 2018, regular meeting. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve tonight's agenda, removing in item 1.5, the minutes from January 8th, the organizational meeting and work session, and January 22nd, the regular meeting, removing those minutes from tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, is there any discussion before we go into vote? Dr. Rock, hearing none from the board members, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is 1.5, approval of the minutes. I'm looking for a motion for the actual two following meetings, December 7th, 2017, regular meeting, and December 18th, 2017, special meeting. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve the minutes that you noted for 2017.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, is there any discussion on that December 7th, 2017 regular meeting or December 18th, 2017 special meeting?
No, but I do have a comment.
Go right ahead.
We need to be more thorough with these minutes. I did look at them, and there is a whole lot of tremendous errors. I think, Dr. Rock, you have a whole lot of time to get these minutes together, you or your staff or whoever's doing them. We need to be a little more timely and accuracy with them.
I think he's going to work on that, Board.
Sure, give us the edits that you suggest. I've taken everybody's edits. Whenever anybody gives me an edit, I've had maybe 3 of them in the past year.
How would you want that? You
And I
want it in
apply
an
the
email
edits.
format, or how would
Yeah,
you?
just send me an email with your corrections. Be glad to get those in there for you.
Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is 1.6, our public participation. Outside on the table was a card that you could fill out if you had any comments, questions. We give you 3 minutes, just have to come down to the podium, give your name and your address. Did anybody get a chance to fill out a card, or did they want to fill out a card? Did you have anybody? Okay. Dr. Rock, do we have any public participation cards? Do we have any?
No.
Okay, all right. Next on our board agenda, we're actually, would you want to do superintendent? or-
Yeah, I'll do superintendent.
Is, we're going to come back around to 1.7 presentation superintendent will give. So we're going to skip board to 1.8, superintendent updates. Superintendent Jolly, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We will start the crosswalk. We're awaiting the state. They are leaving Maple, so they should be here any minute. But I want to give our superintendent update and just get some updates on some various different items. Our building plan outside, there was a calendar that looked like this, if everyone could pick it up. It shares when the next meetings are for the building facilities plan. These are volunteer meetings for community people to, not community, but for our teachers to attend, to get input on the building. The next community meeting will be on March 6th at 6:30 here. March 7th at 6:30 here at the high school. Next, tomorrow, all our juniors take the ACT. So all the juniors in the high school take the ACT here at the high school. On March 1st is high school night. This is a preview of where we have all upcoming 8th graders in the community charter schools and our current 8th graders to come to the high school and see the programs that we have at the high school, to meet our principals and meet various different stakeholders, to get them exposure to what to expect at high school. That'll be held on Thursday at 6:30. Also, coffee with the principal is March 9th at 9:30 at the library. That is high school principal, Mr. Reynolds. Also, Dr. Seuss Day is March 9th at John Dewey. If you have any questions, please contact Takiba Thompson, the Principal Thompson, or John Dewey. Also, March in the Kindergarten is on Saturday, March 17th, 2018 at John Dewey. Again, we have a lot of events. The high school boys basketball team opened up the playoffs on Friday here at the high school. The opponent is not named. I believe it's a game tomorrow. We'll determine who they play.
JFK or Chagrin Falls?
JFK or Chagrin Falls. Also, there will be a district-wide talent show. What date is that? It's next week, March 5th? March 8th. So the district-wide talent show is March 8th. There'll be students from all over the district that'll be part of that talent show.
Where is that going to be?
It's going to be here at the high school.
At what time?
I believe it's at 6 o'clock here at the high school. So as we await the ODE, I just want to reiterate the severity of the House Bill 70 legislation. It's a very severe legislation in which was passed in 2015 that states that if any district has 3 consecutive years of Fs, that it is subject to state takeover. Very serious situation. I keep reiterating it with people because sometimes people don't understand the severity of the legislation. Some people believe, and we've had discussion with various unions, that it just affects the superintendent and the administration. Some people think that. And I've talked to various unions. You read the law, that the law provides a mechanism where all contracts can be, negotiated contracts can be revoked, and the CEO has total control over the entire district. So what does that mean for the average person in Warrensville? You're just a citizen in Warrensville. That means that the board, again, the board becomes nullified, which they will only have the power to enact levies. They do not have the power to hire and fire anybody. The CEO will have that control, whoever the CEO is. The selection process of the CEO consists of the state superintendent gets to select 3 people, and then the community gets to pick 2. So in Lorraine, the state picked 3 people, the community picked 2. So the state has the authority to pick who the CEO is, who might or might not have any connection with the community at all. So when people say, you know, I wish the state would take it over and things, that's not a real good outcome because the community has no input. A CEO has all the input. You won't, I mean, there'll be elections of board members, but the board member, the CEO has the ultimate control. In Lorraine at this time, the board members request documents and CEO doesn't have to provide them and does it because he's not, his authority is the ODE, it's not the community. So regardless of where people stand on the district or stand on me or stand on the leadership, this is not good at all for the community at all because the community's voice doesn't exist. There's no research that shows that a takeover of schools works. It's none that exists. We've asked, others have asked for that. But that's the route that we will go if we don't perform outstanding on these next tests, which our team is working very hard. And there's other mechanisms that the board is taking, that I'm taking, that we are advocating throughout the state, building alliances with other people, working to try to get a pause in the law or possibly get the law changed. I mean, the chances of that happening are very minimal, but we are making the efforts. But I say to the community, I say to our workers here that having someone else dictate your future or your children, having someone control your assets is not beneficial to anybody. It's not beneficial to union members. It's not beneficial to people who own homes in the community, which I'm one who owns 2, which you have no say in what happens to your schools. It's no benefit to anybody. And also, you know, if you would talk money, it degrades your house value if you're a homeowner because people don't want to move into a district that's under academic distress. So regardless of where people stand, or how they feel about my leadership or the board, it is not in the best interest of this district to go that direction. Not at all. It's in the best interest of this district to unite, this community to unite and work together to do in the best interest of all students in this community and in the best interest of the community. So without further ado, our state representatives are here. Ms. Claire Huff Franklin and Tariq are here. Also, I'd like to recognize our support from the ESC, former teacher, graduate, Ms. Sharon Sanders is one of our state support people. Ross May from the state support and Ms. Shelley Gasky are all part of the state support team that work with us to avoid this situation. And again, as I shared before, this has been a slippery slope for a long time. And I think we put a dike in it, but we need time. We need time to continue to grow and do the work that's necessary to make sure our kids receive the best education that they can and to make sure we meet those targets that are set. I have various concerns about the measures. I have various concerns about how we're being rated. I've shared that with the state, shared it with the state superintendent. I shared it through letters. I shared it through conversations. So I'm truly advocating and working on my best to present our case that we are a community and a district on the rise, and that we understand what the issues are, and that we've taken the necessary steps to address them. And in our report today, Dr. Caver and myself will present the ODE crosswalk, which is a result of the July report that we received from the state. So when they received the report, this is our report out of what we've done as a result of the state coming in and doing a visit and providing us our report. So without further ado, Ms. Claire Franklin.
We want to welcome ODE, want to welcome you, Dr. Franklin, Mr. White, and Michelle, and Ms. Reedus. Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Board President, members, distinguished guests. It is our intention to, as the superintendent already shared, allow the opportunity for the district to share what has been accomplished up to this point since we came for the review. So we expect the superintendent to share with you some of the accomplishments that have been made at that point, up to this point, and state support team will be able to vouch for a few things that they've been able to witness, and then we'll come in towards the end to briefly speak to, based on what we have seen, what our expectations can be as we move forward, and we'll speak to some of the next steps. So I'll turn it back over to you, Superintendent.
Thank you. So I hope that everyone has one of these documents. They're outside, if we can make sure everyone has one.
Bring a few, please, Mr. White.
Okay, that's fine.
And I did want to apologize. We just came over from
Maple Heights.
Maple Heights. You already told, okay. So we had two state board representatives who said they were planning to come for whatever reason. Why did I go to the board office? So they may have done that as well. So they did express that they were interested in coming. So apologize for being late, going to the wrong location, and they may end up joining us as well.
So I'll begin, and I want to say that and I just want to talk about the accountability system in general, and this is my opinion. If you look at the accountability system, there is measures for all school districts. So all school districts in the state of Ohio have measures that they have to reach. So in looking at all districts in the state of Ohio, you see that most districts are diverse. Most districts have different subgroups, and if you look at the report card, every district, the majority of districts have certain subgroups within their district. So when the report card is confabulated, there's measures for all students, which is all the students in the district, and then there's measures for each subgroup. So let's use us as an example. We have our all students is our three subgroups. We have three subgroups, which is African American, economically disadvantaged, and special needs. So I want to give a total picture. So let's use our counterpart in Bedford, not Bedford, I'm gonna use Beechwood. So in Beechwood School District, they have African Americans, they have white students, they have Asian students, they have some other subgroups. So when they do the totals, and this is no ODE, but when they do the come up with how you configure what grade is what grade. The grade is based upon the median of the top scorers in the state and the lowest scorer in the state, and they kind of put it in the middle. So with that, each subgroup has a target. So African Americans have a target, special ed have a target, white students have a target, everyone has a target. So in reviewing our data, since we've been here, we look at, because we have one subgroup in general is African American. So we look at that and see, are we scoring where African Americans score across the state? In our review, we're scoring at or exceeding what African Americans are scoring across the state. So that means an African American student who lives in Solon or African American who lives in Beechwood, the median score of what they're scoring, we score or exceeding it. The issue is that score, since we don't have any other subgroups in that score, that's our score. We don't have other subgroups to kind of buffer our score to raise our score. So fundamentally, this is only a problem at school districts that are predominantly African American. It's not a problem where other districts have them because they don't have just one subgroup, or they have one subgroup and it's a white subgroup, which has scored higher on all the assessments since they started. So what I'm saying to you is that there's a fundamental issue that we have to face here at the district, our district, is that we have to close the achievement gap twice as fast as anybody else because the measure is higher than what everybody else in the state is reaching with our same population. But in order for us to avoid the HB 70 legislation, we have to double or triple what we're doing to catch the gap that exists in every district in the state of Ohio. Look at the data. If you don't believe me, just read the data and see it. So with that, that's a challenge because we have to close the achievement gap at record paces in order for us to catch the median because we don't have other groups of students in our scores to help us reach that target. I hope I'm explaining it correctly so that people understand. So it's not that our kids can't do, it's not that we don't believe they can. There's issues that exist that cause all across the state for that score to be a certain. When you look at the targets, when they send them out, there's a reason why the African American score is, or target is not as high as everyone else. That's a state score. That's not Mr. Jolly saying that. It's the state put it out. We got the document that we can verify. Our graduation rate is this year 14% higher than what the state expectation is for African Americans. We can verify our reading score. It's like 3% higher than what the African American rate across the state is. We can verify on the third grade test. In December, we were 4% higher than what the African American rate score in the district. But our issue is that there's a bigger number and we don't have other groups in our numbers to help build our number up. So we have to do double or triple the work in order to catch up. So I want to fundamentally say that's our issue, is that we have to double or triple what we're doing to catch up. Because if we score what everybody else's score, it's not enough. It's not, if we score the same as the average, or we just do what the average is, it's not going to get us there at all. So with that, the crosswalk, Jonathan, you get it up. So I want to give context of what this is all about. It's not about we not teaching here or not doing the things. We are scoring, we are improving. It's just the pace of improvement. And can we catch up in this school year? I mean, that's pretty much where we are. So if you can read the preface, it's just going over you know, the crosswalk, what's going on, what they reviewed us on. It goes over our gains in which we made improvements in our performance index by 6 points. Our K-3 literacy improved from an F to a C, which the state support team verified was the biggest in Collier County. Graduation rate increased 11.7%. Our enrollment in over 2.5 years increased over 300 students, a 15% increase, which resulted in the opening of Westwood. So that's just some highlight of just some of the things that's in here so that everyone's clear and understand that where we're starting and where we're going. So the strategic plan 2020, that is our basis for where we move, and we started our work. It started with the Return to Excellence Plan. When I returned to the district, the board commissioned a group of community stakeholders to work with me to develop a plan to move the district forward. From that plan, last year the board convened and worked together with key people in the community to form the strategic plan 2020 with 5 goals centered around academic achievement, talent management, communications, culture, and learning, and facilities. I don't want to read it to you, but everyone, you understand clear where we are. So on the crosswalk, the first area was leadership and governance and communication. The challenge the ODE stated to us was that the Board of Education does not consistently collaborate or use student achievement data to guide policy and decision making. The ODE recommendation was to provide training for the Board of Education to set measurable goals for team building, communication, strategic planning, and roles and responsibilities. In this plan, we stated who the district person was responsible, who at the lower level was responsible, and what district action was taken. In this, the district action that was taken was that the Board of Education participated in a half-day board roles responsibility work session facilitated by the ESC, and they set goals and work cohesively to review and discuss and approve necessary programming to further the academic achievement of Warrensville High students. Our last work session, our board started with goals 1 and started that process, and they are facilitating that. The progress, as exampled in the book, is the board goals that they've set, and that the board work sessions have been designated to work on goals. And also, we align what we're doing to our strategic plan and our comprehensive continuous improvement plan and our district strategic plan. So everything and every action we do is aligned to one of our mandated or one of our plans. The next one is the leadership instruction practices at the district level are not conducive to respond to the differentiated needs of the schools. The recommendation was to employ district level personnel for data and assessment, instructional technology, and gifted instruction. Our district action was that we hired a data and assessment coordinator, and we hired a gifted teacher to also utilize ESC services for additional testing. So currently we've identified 20 students who are gifted, who are serviced every day at Eastwood Elementary School, grades 2 to 5. Our district assessment coordinator and gifted teacher were both hired in August of 2017, and we received continuous data reports and coaching by building used for instructional decision making. So at our last meeting, Ms. Maurice went over some of the data that we received. Our principals receive data on a continuous basis, and we make decisions based on the data. Where to provide intervention, who needs intervention, what teacher needs assistance, where to assign instructional aides, where to assign other assistants. We use the data by our district data person to assist us in decision making. The next one is curriculum instruction, and Dr. Caver will take that one.
Good evening. So there were 2 areas in curriculum and instruction that the team identified as challenges and recommendations for us. So the first one was that the district did not consistently use differentiation in the classroom to address our students. The recommendation was that we develop a systemic plan for the implementation of differentiated instruction. And so what we decided to do was focus our complete professional development calendar this year on differentiation. And we started out by sending some team members to the Differentiated Instruction Conference last summer and came back starting out right with our Blue and Gold professional development with bringing the train-the-trainer model back, having sessions to train our teachers in differentiation. We've also continued that throughout the year at some of our professional development dates, and we've also used consultants from the Educational Service Center to come in and train the majority of our staff on differentiation. So it's been an ongoing thing for us this year, and some of our progress just to date, of course this is still a work in progress for us, but some of our progress to date is that we analyzed our OTES data in the area of differentiation, and we've seen a 7.25% increase this year in the ratings in the area of teacher evaluation in the area of differentiation. The second area of curriculum instruction that was a challenge for us was that the district does not consistently use evidence-based instructional strategies that promote academic rigor and high expectations. The recommendation was to provide PD on unpacking the standards, as well as making sure that the teachers understand the instructional shifts in the standards that require us to ask higher order questions. So again, we provided professional development on unpacking the standards. That is something that we continue to do. We also have had professional development, not just with our teachers, but with our administrators as well, to talk about Webb's depth of knowledge. We've given all of our administrators depth of knowledge cards that we created to be given out to teachers so that even when they're in the midst of instructing, sometimes if you get a question or you get stuck, you can look down at the STEM card and think of a higher order question to come up with even in the midst of instruction. So we've done things like that. We also review teacher evaluations and walk through data. And also, we walk through on a consistent basis with not just our district leadership team, but also our building administrators all do an informal as well as the formal OTAS process and give feedback to our teachers. We also review lesson plans, or at least our administrators review the lesson plans and give feedback as well. So we're always monitoring for those higher order questions in the lesson plans as well as in the instruction that we see. This has, again, been a goal of ours for professional development all year long. And one of the things that we have seen improvement in is in our teacher-based teams' OIP protocols that we have where they have to unpack the standards in each teacher-based team. The next area is assessment and effective use of data, and Mr. Jolly is going to talk about that section.
Yeah, so the challenge with assessment and effective use of data, I'm sorry, let me put it on the screen. First challenge was that the district lacked sufficient remedial support to address the student learning needs identified by 3 performance measures. The ODE recommendation was to improve performance levels of students in grades pre-K to 3. So our district action was the district-wide implementation of Wilson Foundations. For those that don't know what Wilson Foundations is, it's phonetics. It's the way we learned, most of us learned how to read. So it's going back to the fundamentals of how most of us learned how to read. Districts have got away from that, and they have got to something called whole language, where they taught kids sight words. And kids really didn't know how to read, they knew how to memorize, and they weren't able to comprehend. So we went back to district Wilson's Foundations, provided level of literacy intervention instruction to select students. That is reading instruction based on the level of the student. And STEP tutoring in grades 2 to 3 are provided by the Literacy Cooperative, which is a partnership with John Carroll University. So with that, the progress is that we have full implementation of K3 in the K3 level of Wilson Foundations. Our K3 literacy report card grade is a C. We improved from 12.3 to 37.6, which is the largest increase in Cuyahoga County, verified by the state support team. No reading achievement plan required for 2017-18. Coming in, we were on a reading achievement plan, and we were able to get off the reading achievement plan by the state based on our results. Our 4 third grade promotion score, so 71% of our third graders have met the threshold already before we took the test, the spring test to go to the 3rd grade, and compared to 40% in 2016. And also on the OST, we improved 11% from 9% to 20%, which is 11% gain, showed at the mid-test. Most of the kids passed the test, the second test, but we showed 11% gains on the first one. So 71% compared to 40% is a 31% increase in students that we already know are going to the 4th grade. The district lacks sufficient teacher support for the new computer-based instruction and assessment initiatives is the challenge. The recommendation was to improve access to and use of district online instructional and assessment applications. So our district action was to adopt and implement online assessment system and to utilize iReady assessment and instructional program at the K-8 level. So this is our first year implementation of Illuminate Ed for the entire district. I know our teachers in present know that we use it. Our team has went and helped our teachers use it in high school. I see it's used. And what we can do with that system is really mimic what our OST test looks like. I mean, so our kids are taking tests that look similar to the OST on a continuous basis, and we're able to pull questions from it and as part of our regular testing cycle, but they mimic what kids have to do. So they are online. We also monthly monitor iReady usage across the district. That's an online system that is used to help students improve. The use of Khan Academy, an online resource. Eastwood uses Khan Academy quite often. And district-wide short cycle and quarterly benchmark assessments using Illuminate. So not only do we have a scope and sequence that is aligned to the test or aligned to what's being assessed, we are checking it biweekly and also quarterly. The last challenge is the district lacks high expectations for student growth outcomes that are used in teacher evaluations. The district action is the full implementation of growth measures, norms for state and vendor-approved assessments for the 2017-18 school year. So the 2017 performance index increase of 7%. The reading, there was a 52% increase from 2016 to 2017, and math a 92% increase from 2016-17. So the progress in that one is that we will continue to improve 7% in reading across the board. So that's last year we achieved that. We were above 10% in our increase in reading. Next up.
Human resources and professional development. We had two challenges again. And the first one was, although this district uses the Ohio State Teacher Evaluation System, it is not being used to promote teachers' professional growth. The recommendation was for us to solicit assistance from our SST and to provide professional development that includes how we identify, implement, and monitor instructional strategies that are identified through our TBT process. For actions, we have provided PD from administrators and within our district, as well as from our state support team to teachers and to administrators. And this actual professional development started at the very beginning with our Professional Development Academy of Blue and Gold. One of the very first things that we had as a priority this year was looking at steps 3 and 4 of the Ohio Improvement Process, or the TBT protocol, which was focusing on instructional strategies within our classroom. So we have focused on that as a part of our professional development. And then the way that we monitor it, or the progress that we're looking at, is that we always work closely with our state support team members. They are at all of our DLT meetings and in our buildings, helping with our TBT process, helping with our BLT process. And also with our DLT, as I stated once before, we implement these things, we provide professional development, but then we have to monitor what is actually happening. So frequently there are central office staff members within the school buildings and the classrooms providing feedback to the principals, as well as, like I said, we also will go as a district leadership team, which includes fellow teachers, colleagues, community, a parent liaison, as well as building administrators and central office administrators, to go and look at our buildings and get outside of where they are teaching normally, and to look to see if the things that we are providing professional development on are being implemented and how else we can improve. We also have a curriculum instructional specialist in 2 of our buildings, and they're in primary roles to make sure that they're assisting with the TBT process, the OIP process, and providing instructional feedback and coaching on the areas that are identified in the TBTs. And then lastly, we had a semi-annual OTES review with admin feedback, and basically, like I stated before, we not only provide PD for our teachers, but we also provide PD for our administrators, and we did several sessions of OTES professional development so that we could do norming, as well as look at what constitutes, in our eyes, good instruction, and then instruction that needs to be improved. And so we've had a lot of professional development in that area. The second challenge was the district does not have a focused professional development plan that addresses the needs of the district. And the recommendation was to provide PD for all of our building administrators in the effective use of OTES, so the teacher evaluation system. And there was a second recommendation for this one, which was to develop a comprehensive district-wide PD plan. Our actions were to, as I just stated, provide PD and OTES several different times at the building level. At the ESC, we even had some administrators go to the ESC training for recalibration. And then the other thing we did, of course, was to create a district-wide professional development plan for this year that is available and accessible to everyone, anyone who needs it. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. And then the last thing is, of course, as I stated, we've already done OTES review periodically with our administrators this year to look at what the ratings are, and then again to try to do some type of norming and make sure we're all on the same page. And then I've already talked about the difference that we've seen this year in our differentiation ratings. Okay? And then the next page is student supports. And we had 3 challenges, and those 3 challenges were, the first one I should start with is the district does not have a consistent school-wide discipline practice. And then the recommendation was that we incorporate PBIS, the Positive Behavior Intervention Support Plan, with the Ohio Improvement Process. So in the past, we have used PBIS, but over the years, as you all are aware, we've had different administrators come and go in our buildings, and we have different staff members as well. And so while there were some schools that were implementing it with fidelity, there were others that were just doing a little bit. So what we decided to do was to send all of our schools to have them have a team between last year and this year to go through the complete training cycle on PBIS again. And so there's a PBIS team in place at all the buildings this school year. And we also look at the internal teams at each building, looks at their PBIS data on a frequent basis. And then at the district level, we also look at it maybe quarterly, and we will have a review coming up in March where we look at something called the Swiss data to see what the behavior is looking like, where we use a tracking system to compare what's happening in our buildings. The second student support challenge we faced was that it says the district offers various academic programs and opportunities for students, but it does not have a plan to identify and serve gifted students. So the recommendation was to create a committee to revise our gifted policy identification and service delivery. At the time of this review, we did not have anyone in the district that had the proper certification to teach talented and gifted scholars here at Warrensville, so we made it a priority working with Human Resources this summer and Student Support Services, Ms. Lindsay's area, to identify and hire a gifted teacher. Last year, mid-year, we did have someone come in, and then she left us at the end of the year. But this year, that was a big priority for us, and as Mr. Jolly has already stated, we have identified 20 students in grades 2 through 5 that are served on a daily basis over at Eastwood Elementary School. And then the last challenge was that the district does not have an effective tiered system of academic support for students who are not performing at grade level. The recommendation, recruit a team consisting of representatives from general ed, SPED, and support staff. And so what we have here in Warrensville is something called WIS, the Warrensville Intervention Support Team, and each building has a WIS team in each of their buildings. We made sure that at the beginning of the school year this year that we went to each building and made sure that all the team members were trained in the WIS process. And the WIS process comes in after teachers or administrators or educators have already tried to provide Tier 1 instruction and Tier 2 support. So some of our Tier 2 support includes where we use our Title I dollars to hire Title I intervention teachers to sometimes either push in or pull out some of our scholars, and we have several of those in our buildings. And they may use different programs such as the level literacy intervention program with those scholars at the level that they need to be at. But then in addition to that, there are some students that will come to the WIS program, that will come to the WIS committee, and then it is up to that team to review all of the information and then determine what would be the next appropriate step for these scholars so that we can help them. The next area will be fiscal management.
So fiscal management, the first challenge is that the district does not have a long-term capital plan for financial needs. So the recommendation was to create a district-wide budgeting plan for both short and long-term spending that includes the district financial and educational goals and objectives. The process of developing the plan should involve each administrative department, including staff input. The needs and changes of the program should be presented to the superintendent and treasurer for review and appropriating of funds. So what the district action is that we have department and school budget budget meetings, created a district building plan, which each building has their own budget, and developed a 5-year forecast. The progress and results is the meetings were held in the beginning of the school year, department meetings. The treasurer completed his 5-year forecast. We received monthly spending reports from each department. We've secured funding for a new pre-K to 5 elementary building, and also the district is working with the OFCC for segment 2 of the project. The second challenge is the district does not have a participatory budget development process to include all appropriate stakeholders. So it says develop and conduct a survey of parents of Warrensville High students enrolled in other district programs to determine what changes need to be made or what opportunities are lacking within the district. Based on the results, plan accordingly to use the budget of outgoing students to bring those programs to the student's home district. So our district actions been community forums, our state of the schools address, develop and market our career and technical education, and develop new academic programs and partnerships. The progress of result is increases in student enrollment. From 2016 this time, we are at 1649, and as of today, when this was printed, we were at 1750, but as of today, we're at 1756. Last challenge is that the district's financial documents reveal a revenue loss of approximately $4 million annually, and that's to establish a capital plan, including team members from all buildings and departments, develop a systematic plan to address the financial needs of the district for educational programs, building equipment and transportation, repairs and replacement. So what we identified as the problem was charter schools. Most of that money were kids who lived in the district that went to charter schools. So what we did is reestablish our pupil services department. They were reestablished last year, which Ms. Constance Rudolph is in charge of. And our action is to monitor the charter school data. We hired a truancy officer and established a school board budget committee. But what our truancy officer has done is that he's found students enrolled in charter schools that do not reside in Warrensville. Our 5-year forecast is in the black. Our permanent improvement plan has been developed, but this key points in 2016-17, that team identified 204 scholars not residing in the district, which equated to $1.2 million. Also this year, they have identified 82 more scholars, which resulted in another $500,000 that should be returned to the district. So in all, that concludes our crosswalk of the recommendations and challenges that we face. Again, this is an arduous journey. It's one that we began when we came in 2015-16. I just want to recall the board, we had no administrators at that time when I came, that we had to hire an entire team. We had to replace over 48 teachers in these 2 years that we've been here. But in spite of that, we made significant improvements to our district to improve our test scores, to improve our graduation rate, to improve our literacy rate, to build trust with the community, so that people return, our kids are returning, so that we have to open the school. And the recommendations on this crosswork and challenges, we will continue to strive to improve and work. The work is never done. We have to close the achievement gap at a record pace, and we will continue our hardest. And I just would like to thank our administrators in attendance. If they can just stand up, please. Also, I'd like to thank our teachers. I don't see a lot, but I do see one. She can stand, and you represent the whole teaching staff. And also our OPSI members. We have some. If our OPSI members can stand too, they can stand up. But I would say the sense of urgency I see within our classrooms across the district, our teachers are really focused and really are doing their best to ensure our kids are receiving a great education. Again, they are in the trenches, and they're the ones that's every day with our students and working hard. What we do is just provide them the guidance and the resources and things they need. But I want to publicly thank them, our educators, our OPSI members, our administrators, for all their hard work. It's been a lot of change in these last 2.5 years. A lot of things have changed, opening new schools, new administrators, new principals, all the principals. I believe all the principals are new. Is that correct? Yeah, all of them are new. We got all new principals. So we're making the changes that's necessary. And again, I say to our community, this is the time to unite and be one and work together as one to ensure that the future of the community is stable. Again, and I love ODE, I like ODE, but they don't know Warrensville. They're not Warrensvillers. They're not. And I want our people to understand that you gotta understand that. Our people have to understand that. They have to understand that you don't want other people controlling your destiny, that you control your own destiny. And that whatever disagreements or things that you have, that they are held behind closed doors and you talk about them, you hatch them out, you resolve them, and then you come out and you fight as one. And that's what our community has to do, and that's my appeal today. So without further ado, Ms. Franklin.
I think the district deserves another round. So, state support team is already avouched that they can avouch for the things that the district has shared. Just as a recap, first I would like to recognize State Board Member Lisa Woods for joining us this evening, if you don't mind. You may not see, but it says a lot when a State Board member comes to a different district, a different area, and wanting to actually hear what's going on, because there is advocacy from the board and from ODE. Remember, we don't make the laws. We are tasked to help districts to execute. And it does help to have advocacy from our state board members, especially when, as you said, it's obvious people don't understand your community. And so when we're far away and having to speak to people who only see what's in black and white, it does help to have representatives who are willing to come and help tell your story. So we really appreciate you. So as explained, as a recap, in May of 2017, Ohio Department of Education oversaw the conduction of the district review. Following that, we rendered the district review report. In that report, we gave the recommendations, and soon after, the district began working on articulating this crosswalk that you have. I would say very nicely rendered, very nicely done.
Thank you.
Yes, it looks, something to be said for it. It spells it out very clearly. We asked them to look at the recommendations that we gave and their current plan. So we weren't coming in asking them to just create a whole new plan. As already explained, the district has always had a plan. And our recommendations weren't all new at all. They were already familiar with the things we were recommending. We just asked them to look at our recommendations and tweak their plan accordingly with the recommendations to take specific interests in areas that were challenges. So They laid out the student, we asked them to lay out the student and adult indicators and actual actions that they will enact to accomplish the goals. And we asked them to lay it out within a year to a 3-year time frame, because for all six of these areas, we had several recommendations, and at least 3 to 4 recommendations. So, 18 to 24 different things. We weren't expecting them to try to do it all this year. So the superintendent and his leadership team had to prioritize what would be something they'll do for year 1, which is a lot of what you heard here today, what's already being accomplished since we've been here. And then he's had to prioritize with his leadership, so what are they going to tackle year 2, year 3 as well. They have spoken to many accomplishments to date, which are highly commendable. Just the identification of hiring a gifted teacher, that was just immediately finding solutions. They made priorities to have worked dutifully to reach their goals, such as their WISP process that was explained, dealing with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports. The collaboration and goal setting that the district has put in place are all best practices that help to put them and help to put you in a trajectory to improve. So from the beginning, it's our intent to continue to give you support in any way possible, to be proactive and preventive. So we do feel like at this point, with the type of collaboration that has taken place within the last 6 months since we were here, that if the district can continue in this vein, as you see these successes in 1 year, we can expect, if they continue in this vein, in the next year, in 2 years, 3 years, they will be able to hopefully reach the goals, but they're at least going in the right direction. So we can speak to this, and some of the supports that we hope to continue to give. The state support team has been here and will continue to be here. Mr. Tarek White comes from ODE, out of our Center of Accountability and Continuous Improvement, who will continue to regularly communicate with state support team to see, are there any red flags? Is there any additional help that's needed? Any questions that the superintendent has? He knows I'm just a phone call away, and we'll get whoever is necessary. In addition to that, any kind of funding or supports that we can give in the works. Even the superintendent already is in some preliminary works of networking with other districts and working on a national level. So it is your district that we are always going to be putting in the forefront for any kind of supports there are. In addition to that, we're trying to provide peer-to-peer networking support. So as much as you communicate with your ring districts, they don't look like your district, those districts don't have to deal with the things that you have to deal with. So we're connecting staff here, leadership staff here with other leaders in the state that are dealing with similar issues, similar district, and finding successes. So I think before I told you how I personally have been working with the Ohio 8, the large Ohio 8 districts since 2010, and all of those districts and the districts we have done reviews for, we call them our urban districts, every single district has shining stars, either shining students, just like here, shining teachers, just like here, shining buildings. We're just trying to help all of you to make it district-wide. But everybody has something, as we already heard, a lot of commendable things that other districts can benefit from. So the Ohio 8, they have some commendable things going on, best practices. You all have some best practices that's beneficial to others. And so that's why we have the network group for different content areas. So the treasurers are communicating with Ohio 8 and urban districts, the family and student engagement leaders, and the superintendents in different content areas we're trying to bring together so they can learn from each other best practices. And this is a promise we have made to the federal government that we will extend this kind of support where you're really giving support to each other. Just briefly, it's generally communications monthly by phone call, and then physically whenever they're already coming together for conferences. So, you know, OSBA is coming up, so the treasurers usually go there. We're trying to make sure the treasurers come together then, for example. So that is our way of trying to extend more support. As I said, Mr. White will continue with communicating with state support team on a regular basis, and will be at some of the district leadership team meetings as well, to make sure if there are needs that we can provide at the Ohio Department of Education, we're going to make sure to do that. So having said that, are there any other questions that you have of me on behalf of Ohio Department of Education?
Board, do you have any questions for Dr. Franklin at all?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming, and welcome to Warrensville. Since you can see that the changes that we're making, the achievements that we've made great strides in a short amount of time.
Yes.
And we are working collaboratively with our cohorts. Is there any way possible to delay the possibility of a takeover? Because anyone knows you can't do something, you can't turn a ship on a dime.
This is true.
And we are working diligently. As you see, our educators are working diligently, our administrators are working hard. So what can the state do for districts such as ours that is working to help us avoid the takeover?
Okay, that is a good question.
Thank you.
So again, remember, Ohio Department of Education doesn't make the law.
Understood.
So by law, if you have an overall grade of an F, up to this point, it's been the average of an F for 3 years successively, then immediately thereafter, you have to have an academic distress commission established. So that is the law. At this point, if on your report card that comes up, this current year is our first year having an overall grade. So if on this current report card that comes up in September, if you have a D, overall grade of a D, then everything is just totally clear. The whole thing just starts all over, as if you never had one strike at all. And by law, ultimately, that is the way to avoid having the process continue. In the past, we've had districts to try to prove their case to the superintendent, state superintendent, who is duty-bound to start the academic distress commissions, to prove either that they were close, and based on the formative data, I think Dr. Carver mentioned that you're taking the formative tests and you're able to see progress. And so districts have taken those measures to explain to the state superintendent the progress. In the past, their progress did not go into that trajectory that I explained with your district. Technically, you are in a better position because some of your scores are going up, whereas others who have tried to plead their case, they weren't actually making improvements. So as time goes on, as other districts have been able to have audience with the state superintendent to prove their case, your superintendent will have that opportunity. It gets into a matter of legality if the state superintendent is able to say anything about any kind of delay. As of now, if you get an overall grade of F in legislation, an academic distress commission has to be established. But legislation does change sometimes.
It does.
And there are many who are working towards that end. Right now, that's what it says in legislation. Others have tried to make the argument, as I said, if they had better statistics like yours, they might have had a better argument and could have had possibly a better plea. We will have to look again if there's a stipulation that the superintendent is able to override. I think evidence has to be overwhelming that the district is going in the upward trajectory. So by the summer, the district will have a good read on exactly what they're doing. And that, for sure, if there is any possibility that the superintendent is able to grant that, we'll make sure to communicate that back. At this point, we generally will communicate with the superintendent, who will come back to the board. Unless you all make a special request of us, we are primarily working through the superintendent and through the state support team. So some things we are going to be willing to do is our accountability office is willing to come in and explain more about the report card and the data as necessary. And as time gets closer, should you want more explanation, I will tell you now that our state superintendent is very open and interested in communicating so that there is an understanding, and if there is any possible leeway he could give, he will be looking into your data and seeing. And I think State Board member has been able to hear the compassion of our state superintendent to try to help wherever it's possible without being limited by legislation as it is. So if there's, we are working on a plan that the superintendent will be able to communicate with you. So it's not just, oh, we did this report and you're not hearing from ODE on an official high level. We do anticipate communicating with you as we move forward so that you will be clear on the next steps and the possible steps that can be averted. So we'll make sure to communicate that with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question for you, Dr. Franklin, and I know the House Bill 70, and I know ODE has to do their job, and it depends on who's in office in the State House as far as governorship. But to me, and it's just my opinion, when you have a district and you have boots on the ground and the body of work, there's nothing that, no offense to you guys, ODE could come here and solve. Can you give them information? Can you tell them best practices? That's true.
Right.
But the work that all of these educators and this superintendent, treasurer, and even this board does, there's no way that, I mean, just me, just my own personal opinion, that you could come here and suggest or drive it in a different direction. I mean, we need that advice you give, and that's fine, but we Warrensville. I mean, we gonna make it work, and we gonna do what we do. But I appreciate you coming, but just in my opinion, and like you said, it's legislative, and
Right.
when that changes, it'll change the whole landscape of education. But I
But
mean,
do know, no matter what, ODE is always here to give
I
support.
like that.
And though it's viewed in such a negative way, because you're the board and you've been used to being in control, and it's, but as far as students and parents are concerned, as far as ODE is concerned, it
Correct.
behooves us to do something.
I got you.
I mean, and no one's saying it's perfect, no one's
Correct.
saying the system's not broken in whatever way.
Exactly.
But no matter what, you are the board, you'll always be the board.
Correct.
And it's going to be, I actually worked with the prior ADC and the current ADCs of our current districts that have it. And there is a difference when everyone's working together versus being combative.
I got you.
And it's also different when people embrace, such as your superintendent has embraced this process. And so now we have this wonderful product, more than just what's in black and white, what's actually been done. But every district hasn't been that way. So if you're combative, you're not working together,
Right.
it's going to be a broken system. Everything will be what you make it. And so regardless of whatever next steps are, this is your community. You are going to be able to drive the direction you want to go. It is going to be totally up to you. And no matter what, we at Ohio Department of Education will be here for you and to give you support.
And I appreciate that.
All right.
Is there any question?
Just one quick one. I want
Ms.
to
Gator?
follow up on something that you said earlier. You mentioned that the state superintendent would be willing to discuss the report card? Is
Yeah,
that
we can have, we have an office in our center, the center in which I'm administrator. We have Office of Accountability, which is the report cards. We have federal programs, that's where you get the money. And we have Improvement and Innovation, who more directly works with the state support team. Some of their funding goes to state support team along with other offices. and then my Office of Administration. So the Accountability Office staff would be willing to come and communicate with you if there are questions about the report card. And so we are trying to lay out a plan that before the next report card comes out, that we'll try to have some kind of communication. This is new territory. Outside of Youngstown and Lorraine, everything's new territory. And we're just trying to make it as seamless as possible by way of just trying to give you supports and not make it seem like a hammer is just coming down on you, but that collectively, it does take a village, but remember your village does include Columbus. We're a part of your family too. It behooves us for you to do well. It does not help us to have another academic distress commission.
I got you.
We prefer not to. So we will try to talk through the process, and already you're making strides that some of the other districts didn't, so we can expect hopefully more positive results as well. So yes, the superintendent is looking at ways of how he'll communicate with you further, but I think during the summer, some preliminary data will come out that the superintendent will be able to kind of start looking at that. Per his request, we can have someone from our accountability office who's putting the report card together.
Right.
That can come and explain more, and we already know the state superintendent is willing to try to make some communications as appropriate. We're happy to say when we had our networking meeting with the superintendents of the urban districts, he was present. So I hope you were able to see that that showed how important he sees our urban districts. You know, showing he has a vested interest. I have to say, it hasn't always been that way with other leaders, so we are very pleased, I as an advocate for urban districts particularly, that he has expressed interest, as well as the state board members coming out to see, well, what are you all saying? How are you feeling? So that we can advocate more for you. So, yes, and as soon as we have anything etched in writing of any kind of visitation, we'll always communicate with your superintendent. And if you have any requests, you just let him know, and he'll communicate with us, and we'll make sure to act on it. Okay?
And then I just have one final, I want to follow up one more time. So the report card itself, though, that's not under legislation. That's something that's done by the state, by the superintendent, yes?
Yeah, the aspects of the report are legislated. So value added, we have to have value added, we have to have all those different measures. Overall grade, that's all legislated. It's our job just to interpret and explain it to you all so you understand. But the part of Academic Distress Commission, as a result of your report card, these things happen. We promised to federal government that we would have that differentiated accountability system, which we talked about the last time we were here. And in that differentiated accountability system, you have independent districts who have the overall A, so they're doing whatever right, so we don't do much support for them, all the way to the other extreme of Academic Distress Commission, which is our most intense support. And so those who are with the most intensive supports, you get the district review, or medium support, you get the district review. But we have promised the federal government that after 3 years of overall grade of an F, we will set up this commission to help. And there again, their role is to help, to give support. And so that part of it is legislated because we promised we would try to do something as a next step to help. And we do understand change takes time, but it did, and it took time to get you where you are now. So that's all understandable. But just think of the life of a child. If they're in the 3rd grade, 3 years, if we say, okay, we give you all 3 years, he's gonna be in the 6th grade. And we say, we'll give you 3 more years. Then he's gonna be in the 9th grade. So, you know, someone has a right to say, ODE, you saw this child was in the 3rd and nothing changed all the way until he was in the 9th. At least we're able to say, we did our part to try to help. But there again, try not to be punitive, and, you know, we're not saying you're bad or anything. It is what it is. What can we do to give support? And this is what we're doing. As I spoke to superintendent, working with others around the country to see who's getting it right, that maybe we can help get it here. Somebody's getting it right somewhere. one building at a time, one classroom at a time, one building. And if they can get it right somewhere on the other side of the state, somewhere on the other side of the country with students that look like ours, then we can hopefully glean something that's going to make a difference. If it makes a difference for one child, you know, that child might be the next Obama or next whatever, you know. It only takes one, but we're trying to get more than just one. Every parent in the district wants us to get their one. So hopefully that wasn't too verbose to answer your question. We're here to give support any way we can.
I want to thank you, and I want to thank your team and the support staff. I want to thank all of you. Thank you.
All right, I'm ready.
Next on our board agenda is consent treasurer's report and financial recommendation. Treasurer Dr. Rock.
Okay. It's a short update, but some very important things that we have on the board agenda tonight. One of the resolutions tonight in my section is a resolution for the OFCC Phase Plan 2. This is a resolution, it's similar to what we did with the COPS plan. This resolution lets us spend some expenditures now for Phase 2 and then get reimbursed when the proceeds come in. And remember, I had a big presentation on how that works. So in other words, the general fund will front some expenditures along the way, and then when we sell the bonds and we get the proceeds back, we reimburse ourselves back, which actually you're gonna see part 2 of that for the COPS later in this presentation on the last slide. So and what that does is it allows us to preserve our operational funds, matches the expenditures with the project, and it allows for the expenditures, we can make the expenditures prior to the sale, and keeping that cost of issuance with the bond proceeds. The second item is we have the Municipal Fund Advisor. I'm recommending that we utilize Mike Priscilla with Sutsina and Associates again. And again, this will be, the fee will be paid with the bond proceeds, and this is for Phase 2. Locking him in now will help us develop a finance pathway that's going to maximize all the opportunities for the district, which we utilized on the COPS plan. We saved substantial finance savings and interest rate savings and getting a great rating. A lot of that was the orchestration of Mike Priscilla getting us, developing the plan for us. So we want to repeat that. Again, the fee will be paid with bond proceeds, and it's similar to the COPS deal, and the fee is less than last time. The next one is an agreement with Solutions SBO LLC. This is the group that comes in and helps us with when we're filling out the paperwork for the bonds. And this is, I just want to get the contract in place in case we need it. Because if we do need it, it's going to be moving at lightning speed, and it's better to have the contract in place. So we're going to only use this if necessary. And again, the fee would be paid out of bond proceeds. Mike Priscilla explained last time how there was a change in regulations where this had to be separated out from his normal service. But the big thing is we want to utilize all of the POC information that we had when we did a COPS deal. When we did, it was called a preliminary offering circular, but when it's bonds, it's called a preliminary offering statement. So there may be some differences in there, but I think there's a lot of information that'll translate over. So our intentions are not to use this, but like I said, it'd be nice to have the contract in place in case we're moving fast and we need to get that done. And then this is that part 2 that I was explaining on the COPS deal. Now our proceeds have come in, and we had some prepaid expenditures to the tune of almost $55,000, and now I'm requesting that the board, that we do an operating transfer. So right now the money is sitting in our 004 account, and we want to transfer the $54,746 into the general fund to cover those costs. There's primarily 3 costs: the pre-bond architect at $24,500, bond counsel for project planning and finance planning, and the architect meeting. So that's on the agenda too. And then the last part of the update, I wanted to give you an update on the investment of proceeds. At last meeting, we talked about, when the proceeds come in, we're going to invest the proceeds. These are the proceeds from the COPS deal, almost $17 million. Here's some of the rates that we were able to get. If we just left it in Star, Ohio, and that's doing fabulous right now at 1.48%. But look, we were able to get some commercial paper at 1.9%. A U.S. Treasury at 1.85%, a federal agency note at 2.01%, and a federal agency note at 2.07. And all of this is timed out to agree with the draw schedule for our construction. In other words, once we start building in about 9 to 10 months, we're going to need to start paying some people. But the key thing is for 9 to 10 months, the money's just sitting there, so we could invest it. And instead of just putting it into STAR and getting 1.48%, which is a great percentage coming out of the recession, why not get 50%, 50 basis points more? 50 basis points on $17 million is a big chunk of change. I mean, we're talking about right now, some of our investments are starting to come in. It's bringing in $23,000 a month. So we're able to accumulate more in our balance of interest. And the draw schedule right now is just a draft from the OFCC. As we hire our construction manager at risk, we're going to have a more precise one later. So that's even built into the science behind of how I've invested this to have money ready at those trigger points. And this is just our share. So the other cushion is we have $8 million coming in from the state of Ohio that I don't have invested because we don't have the proceeds yet. That comes in quarterly. So that could be our cushion also for any cash flow. So there was a lot of planning going into this and coming up with this. But the biggest thing is getting 50 basis points more and increasing our investment opportunity. And then just real quickly on phase 2, it's in action. We're developing a pathway to finance phase 2 with the bond levy. So this time it's going to be with the bond levy. This will go to the taxpayers. Phase 1 was without the taxpayers. The district funded that ourselves. We've had meetings with the OFCC and the committee to determine the project amount for phase 2. That's going to be key. Developing our LFIs, which are locally funded initiatives. And phase 2 is going to be a new 6 to 12 building in the campus. And right now we're analyzing the finance options, the legal requirements within that, the timing and levy cycles. Looking at our existing old bond that we have, coming up with a pathway where this all agrees and maximizes our opportunity as a district to get, number 1, get new buildings, and number 2, protect the impact on our taxpayers. And those are the two biggest goals. So that is all in full motion right now too, just to give you an update on that. And then that completes my section. Any questions?
At this time, Board, I will need a motion for the consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations 2.1 through 2.6. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Or is a resolution, you have to have that separate.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations from 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.5, and 2.6. A motion?
2 point, okay. Mr. Chair, I move that this board will approve by consent agenda items 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.5, and 2.6.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mewman. The floor is open discussion for the treasurer. Any questions on those items? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent recommendation and presentation for board. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got to go back to the resolution. I'm sorry. I need a consent treasurer's report and financial recommendation for 2.4 resolution. Can I have a motion?
Dr. Rock, I move that the board approve the following resolution and declaration. authorizing the official intent under U.S. Treasury regulations with respect to reimbursements from proceeds of school district obligations of temporary advances made for payments prior to issuance and making provisions with respect to related matters.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mewman. I mean, excuse me.
Gator.
Gator, I was looking at you, I'm sorry. Board, the floor is open. Discussion on the resolution at all? Dr. Ruck? Hearing none, Dr. Ruck, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin? Yes. Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action administration. I need a motion for 3.1, position title athletic director. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board vote by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action, administration, 3.1, position title, athletic director.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, the floor is open for discussion. Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mrs. Elba?
No.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes, motion carries 4-1. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action certified staff. I need a motion for 4.1 employment coaching supplementals. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move this board vote by consent agenda, superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action, certified staff, item 4.1, coaching supplemental.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Board, the floor is open. Any discussion on those items at 4.1?
I have a question. Are
Right
we
ahead.
just like hiring the same people every year? Is there a posting? Because staff are saying that they're here in the district, they're applying, and they're being told that it's going back to the same people. So I just need to know understand so I can let people know, because it just seems to be going the same.
I got you.
All right, I'd
Superintendent
like to Ms. Hunt.
So all of our positions are posted, our supplemental, positions, and we take the candidates and send them to the hiring manager. A lot of times, we don't get our representation. What specific posting are you referring to?
Well, it's a couple of them on here that, staff are saying that they have applied and they were told that they're not gonna get it. It's the same people that's gonna continue to get it. So I just need to understand the process. I mean, not saying that it's not possible, but you have the same people in all the positions every year as if no one else is applying.
So, that is something I definitely, for the fall, I have talked to Mr. Swift already. All positions are posted for the fall. There will be interviews for all positions. That would be our standard moving forward. I'm not sure about this cycle, or what happened, or who interviewed or who didn't interview, but I do know moving forward that there would be interviews for every position. The evaluations will be reviewed. And it's more to winning than losing. It's about character building. It's about building teams, and other things that we're looking at. I know many of us. I was an athlete in high school, and I think that athletics are very important, and it's very important that we have coaches that are helping our students develop. So, Ms. Elba, to your point, we will be revisiting and looking at all positions to ensure that we have the right coaches at all positions, to ensure that they're not only playing sports, but they are building better people. We're looking at participation, how many people on the team. There's no need of, if a person only have 1 or 2 people on the team, that we continue to have that person in a position. And to your sentiment, just because they had a position before, don't mean they should have the position again. So that is something we're definitely looking at, because that is a important part of middle school and high school, and having good coaches is what benefit our students. So that is something we're looking at.
Any other questions about that section, Board?
No, just a comment, if I heard you correct, Member Elby, you said that the individuals are saying that they're not applying for positions because they think that it's already earmarked for somebody? Is that what I heard you say?
It's earmarked, they're applying, but they were told that it's earmarked, so they're not gonna get the
Oh,
position.
they are applying?
Yeah, and that it's
okay.
earmarked for the same people every year.
Okay, all right, then I
I have just one time to speak.
She has a comment over here.
Go ahead, Ms. Muman.
I have a problem with Mrs. Elba's statement, only because if I have a coach and he's excellent at what he does, then I would want to keep that coach. I don't even think I would even post it, to be honest with you, because
Posted.
it's,
You gotta post it.
A union position, you have to post.
I know, but I'm just saying, you make an issue out of stuff that I think that should just be.
Well, it's
I
not.
just want to be fair. I mean, I
I
understand.
mean,
Understand.
come on now. Mr. McFarland, I know, I'm gonna use him for an example.
Okay.
I know this man is an excellent coach.
Okay?
Why would I want to replace him? Why would anybody want to?
Fair point.
You know, you have coaches that have been in position for years and years and years, and I don't think the school would not hire them because
I got you.
someone else in the district want the position.
I got
That's
you.
stupid to me.
I can say one of the challenges, though, we have people that don't apply. I mean, they might have went to Ms. Elba, but sometimes, people don't apply.
Right.
Ms. Hunt,
And I just went through track, baseball, and softball. We have not one internal candidate.
yeah. And that's kind of where I was going.
Right.
Okay, all right. Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes. It's not a-
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation board action classified staff. I'm looking for a motion for 5.1 through 5.6. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff items 5.1 through 5.6.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mumin. The floor is open for discussion on any of those items in Section 5, 5.1 through 5.6, Board. Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board
Excuse
agenda,
me. I just have a quick question. Who motioned and seconded that?
that was a,
And I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, it was a move.
Maybe you should
By
start talking.
Ms. Vice
I made
President,
the
move it.
motion.
Ms. Mumin.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Yep, you're welcome.
Stop talking.
Next on our board agenda is the consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs. I'm looking for a motion for 6.1 through 6.16. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personal and programs, items 6.1 through 6.16.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mumin. Board, the floor is open for discussion on any of those items in Section 6 of the board agenda. Board Member Elba?
No,
No, I have no.
Hearing none, Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is our actual district policies. As of January, we did get our new set of policies. It should be in your folder. It's volume 36, number 2. If you get a chance to review it, we will have Joe Secret coming in on the 12th to go over these items in this section of volume 36, number 2. It's not, I think it's only 7, but you can review it. I looked at it when it first came out. So, no discussion today. I just wanted you guys to have it before the 12th. Also, I know Superintendent Jolly did talk to our legal team about the actual information that Joe gave us about expenditures. I should have gave you guys a copy. Does everybody have a copy of her recommendation from the Attorney Andrews?
I did forward it to the board.
Okay.
I can re-forward it.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
It's in here, it's in my email, sir.
So we will discuss that. I just want to have Mr. Jolly have his team get together and look at the dollar amounts and what are you doing for this academic year that we can take advantage of some of those policy changes as far as employee recognition and so forth. And as you see, for the last year, we haven't had any type of beverages or little tasty treats at our board meeting, but we will possibly do that. And it is for the board. I know Ms. Elba looking at me, but it's for board members. The snacks, right? No? Can anybody have a chip? Can they have a chip? Because I know you looking at me like, ain't nobody gonna eat them chips. but-
I'm not saying anything,
Okay.
Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Chair.
Go right
so
ahead.
Are we doing,
So we going back to snacks, is that what you're saying?
yes,
I like some snacks. I mean,
I'm asking a question, I mean, first, I
Yes.
didn't wanna do it.
I'm gonna do apple slices.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, ma'am.
That's okay. So I know you said no discussion, but I want to make sure I understand what we're going to be doing for the next work session, so.
Joe's going over all that
He's
policy.
going over this, and then is he also doing 6623 and 6630, which deals with the recognition stuff?
There you go. Yes. But I wanted to make sure that you guys had the actual recommendation that Superintendent Jolly gave you from our legal team. You do have it? Okay. And she just gave you that we should pick policy 1, but you guys don't have to decide on it. You just read it and you can make the decision as a board. I mean, that's her suggestion for those 2 policies. All right, next on our board agenda is unfinished business, 8.1 board goals. As Mr. Jolly and Dr. Caver had stated in their crosswalk, we did start as a board to do more for the board to actually go through some training, and we did have ESC facilitate a board self-evaluation that we had October 21st, 2017. And from that meeting, we did come together as a board collectively of what items that we were trying to accomplish in this school year. We narrowed it down to 4 different goals for this board, and we did dive into the first goal, which I thought was very good and handled by Vice President Mitchell, who facilitated and did an excellent job. And I want to thank all the board members for actively participating in the actual discussion of that. But I'm going to give it to Vice President Mitchell to go over what she came up and what she got from everybody from the actual goal setting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't read the document in entirety, but I did want to thank the board team for working together so that we could get to where we are with the goal number 1. We did, as a recap, we used an activity, and through that activity, there were some questions that were asked, and basically finalizing all the data. Consistent themes were reflected in our comments. We all felt very strongly about responsibility, understanding our role, trust, knowledge, data, research is important, the impact that we have to our current time frame and our future, our ability to work as a team, accountability, and that the fact that individual actions reflect on the whole, not only the whole of the board, but the whole of the community. As we continue to discuss, we synthesized all of our information down to 2 main deliverables, which are reflected on our document here. And for the sake of the audience, I will read quickly. District administrators use several data sources to monitor and manage scholars' learning programs as we work toward closing the achievement gap. In an effort to better understand how best to leverage this data, we, as well as the portals and systems used to house the data, the members of the Warrensville High City School District Board of Education have asked Mr. Jolly to use an upcoming work session meeting to prepare an educational session to help us know how to use district data to make informed decisions. We still need to establish a date for this educational session, and we need to establish a calendar set timing on when the data will be presented to Board of Education members. The second measurement that came out of this was commending educators and scholars for academic achievements. We'd like to celebrate both high and low performers, looking at scholars with the most improvement, in a defined period. We want to ensure that we're recognizing a diverse group of celebrants. We still need to work with Mr. Jolly to understand the criteria he and his administration team will use to select educators and scholars. And we still need to identify how we'll celebrate our recipients. So I wanted to make sure, Board, that one, I accurately captured what we discussed as a team. And then I know as we were departing the meeting that evening, several of us discussed the possibility of having a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon session so that we could kind of finish out the last three, since it does take quite a bit of time and it gives us an opportunity to build out programs to at least try to manage the last couple of months of the school year. Are we amiable to that?
I am.
I am. Morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Michelle?
When are we talking about doing this?
We need to, if everyone says yes, we would
We'll
need to
pick
pick
a
a date.
Okay, so here's just an idea that I'm throwing out. The 5 of us will be in San Antonio.
April.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're only doing 1 work session a month anyway.
We're not talking a work
We're
session.
not- Yeah, this will be a Saturday
No,
session.
Yeah, I understand that. However, we're already there, and the pre-workshop is over early. Would anybody consider entertaining it then, or no?
In San Antonio?
Yeah, it can be done. I've already inquired.
I have commitments with Council of Urban Boards of Education, but I mean, I can make it work, but I mean,
I'm not saying the whole week.
I'm their worker that weekend, so.
We would need to really lay aside about 4 hours, Michelle. It really is gonna take a half a day. It took us about an hour, a little over an
Yeah.
hour, to get through just one goal. So we wanna go through 3 goals and have good discussion. And I don't know that we will really be able to do that in.
Okay, well, I don't think we're gonna get through 3 goals in 4 hours.
I think
Okay.
I'm very confident that we will.
We can try.
So as a board, if we
We
can
can
come
try.
together and pick a Saturday sometime in March, that would probably.
Yeah, we'll discuss it on the 12th.
Or we probably need to think about a date now,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that we
I don't
can
know
get
my
something
schedule, but-
scheduled.
Who's gonna do that? Oh, this is just us finishing
This
up
will
these
be
goals.
us, finishing
Just
up the
us.
goals.
Yeah, just us.
And if I can just make a suggestion, Board, I know we're saying 4 hours, but if it takes 6 hours, we need to stay as long as it takes to get it done.
Yeah, I don't
because
think
we're
it will
not gonna
take,
do
I don't think it
yeah,
will, but I don't want
take
people
4
to
hours.
get their
What you
heads
say,
in,
Michelle?
"Oh,
We
it's
ain't gonna
4
be-
hours, we gotta go."
yeah.
So the 3rd doesn't work for me.
I mean, the 17th is St. Patty's Day, but I'm not Irish, but that would
What they
work
got
for
to
me.
So does the 10th work for anyone?
I know I'm tied up that day.
So the 10th.
How about the 24th?
It's a good day for me. I like, oh, like in the morning?
I'm not in town.
Oh, she out of town.
17th is the best.
She the world traveler. World traveler, where you
Does the
going?
17th work for
Where you going,
everyone?
world traveler?
What?
17th.
The
17th?
That's fine for me. Yeah, 17th's fine.
What about the 17th?
At 9 a.m.? I'll check the venues and see if we can gather.
If we could try to get.
Where we trying to go?
Well, I know we were
come
able to
in.
use the room at Tri-C for free, the room that we were in last time. That room is free if it's available.
We could have Maddie or Alicia.
Yeah,
book the
at least you could check. I mean,
And as a worst case, could we use the board office?
We could use the
Board
board
office,
office.
yes.
But you've got to
That's
have
fine.
someone there to open it up for us as well.
Jolly be
We
here?
can open it up. I can open it.
So is 3:17 work for everyone?
Yes,
9 a.m. start time?
yes. For me. Is that good for you guys, 9 a.m.?
All right.
8 a.m.
We can.
We can do 8.
We are
Yeah, we
not
can do
doing
it.
8 o'clock.
Why not?
Yeah, you already
Saturday.
up anyway during the.
Right. Eat my breakfast, yeah.
No more hours.
I'm good with 9 a.m.
Yeah, 9 a.m.
I'm
is
good with
fine.
8 a.m.
Good at 8 a.m.
So do we need to take a vote on whether we're gonna do 8 or 9?
Well, we already 3 to 2.
We already 3 to 2,
Yeah,
8 o'clock.
8 a.m. is fine.
Who were the 3 that said 8 a.m.?
Ms. Muman, Ms. Elba, and Mr. Freeman,
That's fine.
and a third person. and
So,
me.
Mr. Jolly, you'll get back to us with a possible location. Everybody better be there right at 8 o'clock too.
I'll be there 7:55 then.
Better be.
Um,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next on our board agenda, there's no new business. Dr. Rock, is there any correspondence?
No, sir.
I'm sorry, I want to go back to the meeting that we just planned. Are we going to have everyone just bring their own refreshments in, since we're starting at 8 in the morning? Is that the expectation?
I'll purchase refreshments for you guys. I'll purchase for you. That's what I do. I got you.
Thank you, Ray.
Don't even worry about it. I got you. Dr. Rock, any correspondence?
No, sir.
I do, before we want to adjourn, I want to thank our actual Tri-City Council people that come and support this district, and our Honorable Mayor, David Smith from North Randall. I called Dave, we had a good conversation. He's here to support this district on all we do, and with the Amazon deal, I want to thank you, David Smith. I want to thank Councilman Stewart for what he does over in his ward. And I want to thank Councilman Howard, that's always been here from day one since I've been here, and what he does in 5. And I want to thank Doris Hagwood, what she does in 1. And I want to thank Council President Andrea Mitchell, what she does in her ward. So I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank the Council President Michael, I'm about to say his name, Michael Booker, for always support me, Mike. I just said Smith, we just talked. You ain't listening. Somebody ain't listening. All right, just a couple announcements that the superintendent did make. The boys are in their first basketball playoff game. It'll take place this Friday at our location. It'll either be against Chagrin Falls or JFK. Coach Swift? All right, and then the senior class is having a fundraiser. It's actually March 7th. It's at BW3 here in Warrensville. It starts at 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. 20% of proceeds go to the class of 2018. I will double check and see if you need a flyer. I know last time we didn't, but you have to, when you purchase your meal. Huh? Oh, okay. When you purchase your meal, there will be 20% goes to the class of 2018. Also, GDP, our architect group, the design team will be having another community meeting here at the board on that same day, March 7th at 6:30. So if you want to come and give input, they're going to give an update of where they're at on some of the designs. Sean Jones and John Dewey will be doing their Dr. Seuss Day. It's a fun time at John Dewey, and that will take place, like Superintendent Jolly said, March 9th. It's a Friday from 9:30 to 2 p.m. at John Dewey. You can come and read books to a scholar. Also, board, if you wanted a T-shirt, I think the cutoff was Friday, but you can call Miss Jones and see if she can get you a T-shirt. Also, the pre-K to kindergarten registration fair, which is always a good time, is March 17th. It'll be that Saturday from 12 noon to 3 p.m. at John Dewey Elementary School. Also, I did have a conversation with the HR director for the City of Warrensville Heights. They are actually looking for summer help for scholars 14 years and above, and even in college. I know many board members sit at this table, their children worked. So Leslie Holland told me if any of your children or any of the scholars at least 14 years old, they would have to go and fill out an application or go pick up an application at the City Hall. Our next board meeting will be March the 12th here at 7 p.m. will be a work session. And oh, okay. And I just want, if you could stand up, Steve Zanoni. Steve is from PMC. He's our owner rep. He will be taking care of that building, that pre-K. He will do all of the change orders. And Steve, if you could just talk to that real quick. Owner's rep.
So everyone understand, the owner's rep is a person that the district is employing that will represent the district in all our financial dealings. We'll deal with the architects, we'll deal with the state. I know Mr. Tony will explain a little more, but it's very important. Our elders of our community who were part of the 2000 levy campaign were very adamant that we had representation to represent the district on this. So, you know, as a community with elders, we are listening to their recommendation. I appreciate the board supporting us, having the owner's rep to help us successfully build this pre-K to 5.
Well,
Steve?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank the board and the district for giving us the opportunity to be your owner's rep. We're very excited about the project. We have a lot of familiarity here in Warrensville. Just to give you a little background on ourselves, we were the owner's rep for the YMCA project for the city, which was a great project, had struggles in terms of budget, and we were able to get not only what was initially promised to the community, but quite a bit more in that project. And so went very well. As owner's rep, our job here is to represent the district. And as you know, you do have a partner, which is the state, and they do bring funds. Well, we want to make sure we maximize the use of those funds, and that's one of the things we have a strong familiarity with, to make sure that we get every dollar from them and that we get to use it for what we need and what those students need. Also, in terms of the project organization, we will be helping the district itself in terms of helping manage you, in terms of getting the right people at the right places during all of these types of meetings. There's going to be quite a few. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, why isn't we've got the money, why isn't anything being done? It takes a lot of planning. And we want to make sure we make the right decisions, and we're going to help the district in that process. We've been working with the district in terms of selection of the architects, which I think we've done. The district did a great job evaluating it. We gave a lot of input. We've worked with the architects that you have. We're very excited about your construction manager, which is located here in Warrensville Heights, and they were the same construction manager that we had on the YMCA. And they did a great job, and they kept the project in budget, and we're very, very, very happy. One of the things that's kind of unusual is the state has never used them for any of their projects as construction manager. They have done some work as a trade contractor, and this is the first time in about 6 years that the state is using a CM that's outside of the ones who they normally use. And we were very pleased that the state listened to us, and that was part of our job to make sure that would happen. Also, having that local component, I think, is going to make a huge, huge difference in terms of success. During construction, we will be looking at all the costs in terms of payments to anyone. There's a whole pay application process, making sure that what's been done is truly been done. One of the great things about this project is payment is based on the actual spend. Most construction projects are done by percentages. Well, you never know, are we really at 50% or we're not? This construction manager risk is going to give us a guaranteed maximum price prior to bidding, so the bid risk is not going to be with the district, it's going to be with the construction manager, and at the same time, it's called open book. If they can't show us that they've spent the money, then we don't pay them the money. So we have to see every invoice, every all the labor that's used on the project. So we're very excited, and I want to thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. I look forward to the relationship with this district. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank Narcina Jones and Tasha Pettigrew for an outstanding Black History program today at the high school.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I didn't attend, but other people did, and I just wanted to say thank you for your hard work.
It was a great program today. Our scholars were engaged. We had 4 great panelists that gave their history and their background, and I've seen all of the scholars truly engaged, and they waited afterwards to talk to those panelists, so it was a great program. Board, at this time, I don't have any more board business. Can I have a motion to?
I just have one thing to say.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Jolly, can we look at this website and start promoting other schools, other buildings instead of the high school? Every website, the front page, it highlights the high school. Nothing against the high school, but we still have John Dewey, Eastwood, Westwood, Middle School. Can we start highlighting some of them, the things that they do? I mean, to go through it, it took forever just to find the Dr. Seuss thing. That, to me, should have been right on the front page.
Okay.
Also, as far as the parent volunteer, it's not user-friendly to find to get the form.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right.
Can I have a motion for adjourn?
Thank you.
1 second. High school night is March 1st for 8th graders to become over to the high school and parents for high school night.
March 9th?
March 1st.
Oh,
It's
first.
Thursday.
Oh, this. Oh, okay. You said it?
Yeah, I do.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board meeting from March 26th be adjourned.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Newman. Dr. Rock, please call the roll.
Mrs. Moomin? Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell? Mr. Freeman?